Well, good morning and welcome to another episode of Sunday Story, where we're making our way through the Jesus Storybook Bible. Last week we thought about the terrible lie, how everything good that God had made suddenly went bad when Adam and Eve believed the terrible lie. But the story ended with a bit of hope because God promised in his unending love to do something to put it all right. So this morning we're going to start really the second half of the story of the Bible, which is finding out how God was going to make everything right again. Enjoy.
A new beginning. Time passed and many people filled the earth. Everyone everywhere had forgotten about God and were only doing bad things all the time. God's heart was filled with pain when he saw what had happened to the world he loved. Everywhere was disease and death and destruction, all the things God hates most.
Now Noah was God's friend, which was odd in those days because no one else was. Noah listened to God. He talked to God. He just loved being with God like you do with your best friend.
Noah, God said, things have gone wrong. People have filled my world with hate instead of love. They are destroying themselves and each other and my world. I must stop them. First, we'll build an ark. Do you know how to build an ark? Neither did Noah. Luckily, God knew and he would show him.
A storm is coming, God told Noah. But I will rescue you, I promise. I'll send the animals to you, ones that creep and crawl and slither and slime and gallop and hop and bound and climb. And don't forget to pack everyone's food. The storm was going to wash away all the hate and sadness and everything that had gone wrong and make the world clean again. God had thought up a way to keep Noah safe. But Noah would have to trust God and do exactly what God told him. So Noah built an ark, short for very large boat.
Noah's neighbours came out to watch and point and laugh because they didn't believe Noah about the boat or the storm or needing to be rescued. And Noah must have looked pretty silly. His boat was in the desert. The desert was nowhere near the sea, and there wasn't even a cloud in the sky. Why would anyone need an umbrella, let alone a boat?
But Noah didn't mind so much what other people thought. He minded what God thought. So he just did what God told him to. When the ark was ready, God said, "All aboard," and Noah's family and all the animals climbed inside. Then God shut the door.
And it started raining. For minutes that joined into hours, that joined into days, that joined into weeks and weeks. And the rain joined up into puddles, that joined up into rivers, that joined into lakes, that joined up into a flood that covered the whole world.
Their boat that had once seemed so big suddenly seemed very small. But in the middle of the huge storm, in the crashing waves, in all the thunder and lightning, through it all, God was with them. And God kept them safe for 40 long days and 40 long nights.
Finally, the rain stopped. The sun came out and Noah threw open all the windows. "Hooray!" everyone shouted. Noah sent his dove out to explore, and it wasn't long before she brought him back a fresh olive leaf. Everyone knew exactly what that meant. She had found a tree and land. The water was going down.
At last, the boat landed quite suddenly on top of a great mountain. As soon as it was safe, God said, Out you come!" And so they did, everyone skipping and dancing onto dry land. The first thing Noah did was to thank God for rescuing them, just as he had promised. And the first thing God did was to make another promise. "I won't ever destroy the world again."
And like a warrior who puts away his bow and arrow at the end of a great battle, God said, "See, I have hung up my bow in the clouds." And there, in the clouds, just where the storm meets the sun, was a beautiful bow made of light.
It was a new beginning in God's world. It wasn't long before everything went wrong again, but God wasn't surprised. He knew this would happen. That's why, before the beginning of time, he had another plan, a better plan. A plan not to destroy the world, but to rescue it. A plan to one day send his own son, the rescuer. God's strong anger against hate and sadness and death would come down once more, but not on his people or his world. No, God's war bow was not pointing down at his people. It was pointing up into the heart of heaven.
Well, thank you so much for everyone who sent in a picture of their Easter craft from last week. Here are a couple of the crafts that got sent in, and they really are wonderful. Thanks to everybody who worked their hardest on making these wonderful pictures and videos. Here's Bethan with a new craft for today.
Okay, craft time. Why don't you make an arc with a rainbow on top? I used 2 paper plates to make this, so a whole one, and then cut one in half, colour the rainbow, colour the arc, and then you can make your own animals, or if you've got some animals at home, stick them in the arc. And then why don't you ask your grown-up to help you look up Genesis chapter 6 to 9, which is where the story today came from, and pick a verse to write colourfully on the front of your arc. So I chose Genesis 9 verse 16. It says this: "When the bow is in the clouds, I will remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth." Genesis 9:16. We're seeing loads of rainbows in people's windows at the moment, and that's great. But let's make this rainbow to remind us of God's promise to us that he'll never destroy the world again. Give it a go.